That down, guys. Let's move on to this, shall we? Kind of staying in that realm of Deadpool and the X-verse. Everybody's been waiting. When are the X-Men coming? When are the X-Men coming? Now, of course, in the Ms. Marvel series, they mentioned she might have a great scene. By the way, great show. If you guys haven't watched Ms. Marvel, watch it. It's a absolutely delightful show. Anyway, there's this great scene where one of the guys mentions a mutation. And then in the background, they very subtly, they have the X-Men animated show theme music playing. Right? So, and of course we got Hank McCoy. We got Beast, voiced by Kelsey Grammer, pops up at the end of the Marvels. So you can kind of say, well, and you know, Charles popped up in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. You can sort of maybe say the X-Men have arrived already, but they haven't yet, really. We knew at some point we were getting an X-Men movie, and today, for the first time ever, we've got our first real official movement on an actual X-Men movie. They've got themselves a writer. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline, who are saying X-Men movie at Marvel Studios gains momentum as Michael Leslie comes on as the screenwriter. They write exclusive. Following the success of its animated series, X-Men 97, Marvel Studios is now ramping things up on its live-action X-Men movie with Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes scribe Michael Leslie. By the way, he also directed a movie I really like, the Michael Fassbender version of Macbeth, which I really like that movie a lot. And this guy did the screenplay on that. Anyway, in negotiations to pen the movie. The film is still in early development with no talent or director attached and no release date set. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige will produce. All right. I feel like the Michael Scott meme from The Office. It's happening. It's happening. This is something. This is a day that people, ever since they made the announcement that Marvel or Disney was buying Fox, that people, aside from the Deadpool news, have been waiting for. X-Men are coming. And this is the first official kind of word that we're getting on this. They're actually going to start developing an X-Men movie. Now, this is probably a earliest 2026.
Yeah.
More likely 2027. If they're just going to start the writing development of it right now. And you know what? They might just be bringing this guy on to write a first thing to be a base foundation to start building their ideas off of. We might still be a long ways off from getting our first X-Men movie, but this is the first official step. And it's exciting, and it brings up a lot of questions. Is it going to be the classic Xavier Magneto? Are we going to have the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? Is it going to be the original, the OG X-Men that we had in the comics, which of course was Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and Angel? That was your original lineup. Or are they going to go more original lineup from the movie lineup that they had, where you have Storm? And again, it's going to bring up the question about, do you start X-Men with or without Wolverine? I can't imagine a reality that you don't start your franchise with the property's by far most popular character. So I think it's a no-brainer that they do that, but you never know. You never know. How on earth do you bring in the X-Men to the MCU, where the whole conceit of the X-Men storyline is that for ages they have lived here and trying to deal with the prejudice of being mutants, against being mutants, and them trying to fight for a world that both hates and fears them. How do you do that in an MCU where they never even heard of mutants before? Are they going to be bringing them in as a part of an incursion? Like, all these questions now start to percolate and bubble. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, The Wellness Company. Okay, so you wake up with a scratchy throat, congestion, runny nose, and cough. You know your body. You know you're getting sick. So your choices are tough it out, get sick, and take time off work, or hope the doctor can see you this month, or wait 2 hours at urgent care and sit in a room full of sick people, or open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to the doctor-recommended prescription. Start on the right meds and nip this in the bud now. Your medical emergency kit is not a first aid kit. It comes with doctor-prescribed meds to treat over 39 medical issues. Strong antibiotics for infections of all types, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, bronchitis, and so much more. Plus, a doctor's easy guide so you'll know exactly what to take and when. There's no waiting to see the doctor, no waiting at the pharmacy. It's all in here. Every home should have at least one medical medical emergency kit. Order yours online in just minutes. Your kit will be rushed right to your door, and you can get 15% off at twc.health/Campea and use promo code Campea when you check out. That's promo code Campea at twc.health/Campea. But Rob, let me throw this over to you and ask you this. How significant is it that we've been waiting for this for 6 years? How significant is it that we now got our first word that they've now brought on a writer for this? And then let's start the process of the speculation, if you will, about how on earth do they bring the X-Men into this MCU now that it's actually happening? What do you think?
Well, one, it's exciting. It's tangibility, as you always say. It'll be interesting to see which take. I mean, obviously, I think that with Marvel, they listened to people's pitches and takes on these things, and they went with him. So, look, as far as they're going to bring in the X-Men, I think that the X-Men have always been here. We're going to find out. They just haven't been players on the world stage because they've been keeping under wraps. You know, they're not. And I think that the X-Men, what this will deal with is their emergence onto the world stage, probably. Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters was something that was you know, it was just a school for gifted youngsters. It was under wraps. No one knows. The mutants have not been players on the world stage for a long time. The Hellfire Club, probably, you go back to that. They've been in the shadows, the same way that the vampires in the first Blade movie, they had a whole subculture, you know, in New York City, and people didn't really know they were there unless you went to a blood rave and you got killed. But then you knew. But I think that's the way I would assume they're going to do it. Because, and then we'll find out that we just haven't been focusing on, you know, it's like when you watch an Avengers or when you watch any Marvel movie, you're seeing what goes on in one city. Like if the Chitauri invade New York, the X-Men are like, it's over in 20 minutes. I mean, this Chitauri invasion didn't last for weeks. It happened. We saw it happen in almost real time, and then it's over. So the X-Men were not ready to emerge yet on the world stage, and I think they've always been there.
Because even if you think about Age of Ultron, well, that was internal affairs, and then it exploded over in Sokovia.
Sokovia.
And then, you know, you had like political issues with oh my gosh, Black Panther's country, Wakanda. And then that kind of just devolved into chaos.
Yeah,
Wakanda, so everything just kind of popped up.
Yeah, and I think that maybe mutants have always been probably involved in world affairs, but nobody knew who they were.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't, because we didn't have them all running around, traipsing around the world. I mean, they could do something along those lines, and then they're going to come onto the world stage. The one thing that kind of works,
we've talked about this before, though, is that when you look at the traditional X-Men lore, which they don't have to follow all the traditions.
No.
But the traditional X-Men lore is sometime during puberty, that's when the X gene will manifest. So you're going to have literally thousands of kids around the world suddenly blowing up buildings or whatever, and that's never made the news. But they don't have to follow that lore necessarily.
Yeah, or that mutants have, remember that the X gene didn't explode until a certain time. Right. So maybe they could tie it into the MCU that something had to do with perhaps Thanos' snap.
Yeah.
The release of that energy was when everybody came back.
But then you take away the history of Charles and Eric and Magneto.
Well, that could still be there. I mean, people you know, it's just like Hydra existed in the MCU, the super science of Hydra. And so we just haven't seen that stuff. Like nobody knows that Red Skull was running around during World War II.
Well, yeah, but that's the difference between that and thousands of teenagers like spontaneously.
Right, yeah, I think that would be different.
But they might have to change the lore in that. I do want to address this though, because I get this a lot and I need to address this. So whenever I bring up the topic of Wolverine and I say, look, Wolverine, does anybody disagree that Wolverine is by miles the most popular, not necessarily your favorite, but by miles the most popular X-Men character? I don't know that there's much debate about that, right? Yeah. And I say, I just don't imagine a world in which you start off X-Men without Wolverine being a part of it. Now, what I often hear in response to that, and what one of our, not only one of our live viewers, but one of our beloved YouTube channel members, Mecha Goji, wrote, says, you don't need Wolverine. I've heard this a lot. You don't need Wolverine. First Class proved you didn't need Wolverine. My friends, that was after 4 X-Men films with Wolverine. I'm not saying every X-Men film you do has to have Wolverine, but they literally, by the time X-Men First Class came out, they had already done 4 of them. They started off their universe with Wolverine.
But then who was the key in Days of Future Past between the two, the old and the first class?
Was
It
the central
Wolverine.
character. By the way, one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, Days of Future
It
Past.
still
I think.
is.
It's still so good.
You know, I'll tell you something. I think what they might do with this movie, the way that Deadpool and Wolverine ends, for instance, what if whatever shenanigans occur, it ends where Deadpool is standing over Logan's grave from Logan.
Right.
And whatever portal that opens up, that's the last of this Fox universe we're ever going to see. And Deadpool is looking over Wade, or Wade is looking over Logan's grave and realizes this is the end. And then he walks through the portal knowing that the Fox universe is forever
Is now gone.
And then that version of Wolverine that he's known and loved is no more. And then Deadpool's, would that be cool if he steps out and he's in the MCU?
Will be heartbreaking because that means he loses everybody.
Everybody.
I don't see how he saves everybody. I think this mission
Unless
is going
they
to
do
be a fail.
incursion, right?
He's going to lose him to an incursion.
But I mean, maybe that's how they're going to merge his world in. That's
Where
how they
they're
bring-
merged in.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Or
but like
or,
his world as he knows it will have to be incurred. Like
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I just think that that's how they have to end it. And then he's going to, and whatever happens at the end of this movie is, I think whatever happens at the end of, to make Deadpool and Wolverine worthwhile, something will happen at the end of that movie where it transitions from the Fox X-Men universe into the MCU X-Men universe, whatever that is. And there's going to be some indication that Deadpool sees whatever they're going to show us, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. And he's going to look up and be like, all right. Because he's the only person that's ever going to remember that there ever was a Fox X-Men universe.
Yeah, those X-Men are now gone.
They're gone. The whole and he'll be standing there and he'll be like, and he'll just jump in and that'll be the end of that movie.
and somehow he knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
And somehow, some way, he knows.
But it would be really interesting, and then whatever happens there, and that'll set the stage for where the X-Men are going to go.
All right, guys, the question is for you. It's actually now happening. The first time we've got an official thing on the development of an actual Marvel X-Men film. It's actually here. They've got a writer. They're developing now. We don't know if this is going to be like the actual screenplay or whether this is going to be step one in their development, but it's actually in movement here. How do you guys feel about that? Are you looking forward to the new X-Men, whatever that's going to look like? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.